Lunch always hanging out. Scott, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Kayleen. It must be warm out there in Colorado. This is the first time I think I've seen you with the sleeveless top.
Yes, and I was trying to get my yard mowed before my trash guy came, and the tree service is coming to maybe give a haircut to one of my maples. And so, yes, it is cooking here, but it's delightful to see you. And I am Kayleen Mccabe, co-hosting Lunch with Sefka with my good friend Scott Sheelar, who is the founder of Sefka. And Scott, you've been off for a few weeks. It's really great to see you again. So how have you been? What have you been up to?
Oh, I'm doing great, Kayleen. Good to see you too. I've been traveling around Georgia a little bit. I was in Augusta, Georgia last week for our first construction ready graduation. We graduated 13 construction ready students in Augusta. That's actually our first class outside of Atlanta. So it was a pretty big milestone to be able to do that program. Augusta, just so you know, is about 2 hours east of Atlanta. And we ended up placing all 13 students into full-time careers in the construction industry. So that's super exciting. And then this week, I'm headed down to Savannah for the same deal. Savannah is a little bit farther from Atlanta. It's about 3.5 hours. And so I'm driving down there on Thursday for our first graduation there on Friday morning. So just busy driving around this beautiful state of ours and helping people find great careers in the construction industry.
Scott, that is absolutely terrific and the best news ever. What a great reason to travel around and goof off, especially having people employed. You know, the skills that the Construction Ready program provide are so valuable, and what a testament that, yes, now they're being employed. So congratulations, and also to the recent graduates and future graduates coming up. That's very exciting.
Yes, thank you. And I am so excited about our guest today from the welding sector. You know, we talk a lot about how construction, you know, if you think about it, there's so many different elements to our industry. We've talked about this before. There's electrical, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, and of course, welding. But what's interesting about welding, and maybe every other trade, but what's interesting is even within welding, there are so many different types of jobs that are available. You know, when you stop and think about it, you know, a lot of welders go into shipbuilding. They go into obviously structural construction. You know, a lot of our students from Construction Ready were hired by Yancey Brothers, which is a big Caterpillar dealership here in Atlanta. And they were hired to do equipment maintenance. And Kayleen, you know this. I mean, in order to repair some of those big pieces of equipment, you have to know how to weld, right? And so I'm fascinated by welding because there are so many different ways you can make a living and make a career in you know, in the industry. In fact, you'll appreciate this. I was in a golf tournament with a guy who was an underwater welder, which is fascinating, you know, and he was telling me about all the different, it's not real pleasant, all the different types of fluid that he's, you know, that he's actually welded in. But it was fascinating to realize that, I mean, he's had to weld actually in like gasoline, basically, like in a gasoline tank that had to be repaired. And I said, well, how in the world do you weld in gasoline? And he was like, well, you put on this suit, you know, that allows you to go in gasoline and weld. And so anyway, fascinating stuff. I'm sure our guests can tell you a lot more about that than I can, but I'm fascinated by the whole idea of welding, the whole career of welding, and looking forward to hearing our guests today.
Well, it's a huge scope. You know, I genuinely think it's a skill that all students should have because it opens up so many other doors to different areas. But I love that you touch on that, you know, welding, maybe people think it might be dirty, but you are at a golf tournament playing with this welder, you know, which leads me to my geek out for the day. Scott, you know, I'm still new to golf, so I like any cheater that I can get. I'm in love with these tees. These are called 4 More Yards. And this is the driver tee, but there's also one for like, you know, shorters. I'm obsessed. I'm totally obsessed. So I think it's a good skill that like we should all be welders and then learn how to golf on the side because you meet great friends and learn cool things.
So does it actually give you 4 more yards when you use them? Have you tested them out?
I don't know if I'm good enough to know yet. I'm just excited if I hit it forward with enthusiasm. So when I get good enough, I'll definitely figure that one out. But until then, maybe somebody else could tell me like, oh, fancy. But the guests that we're talking to today are fantastic because we get, you know, a student kind of liaison perspective, but also then the vice chair. And so we get a nice broad scope of this really broad industry. And I tell you what, Scott, I mean, if I go back to school, it's going to be for welding. So we're talking to the right folks today.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited. And they're both Georgians, which is really cool too. They're both based here in Georgia. But of course, welding, there are opportunities all over the world. I mean, literally, if you become a welder, you can go anywhere in the world that you want to go. And you can make a lot of money in welding as well. I mean, I hear about welders all the time making over $100,000 a year. I mean, that's not uncommon at all, especially that underwater welder that I mentioned. You would not believe the rates that he shared with me, the kind of money he makes doing underwater welding. So really cool. I can't wait to hear from our guests today.
Me either. And so you're going to hang out for all of lunch, right? So if any of our guests have questions, you're here to answer them.
I'm here. I understand we have a packed agenda with lots of questions, so we may not have time for me to come back on, which is cool. But if we do, I'll be here and y'all pull me back in and we'll talk a little bit more.
Brilliant. That's awesome, Scott. We'll have a good listen in, and we will see or not see you in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kayleen.
Thanks, Scott. I'm very excited to bring in Rachel Lee. And Rachel, you are the student liaison and executive member of the American Welding Society. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be a part of this. And I can't wait to tell you more about welding.
Yes. Oh, okay. I mean, it is my favorite. I love the sound of bacon, and I love to eat bacon, and frying is very similar to that sound. It makes me very happy. But it is one of the most common trades offered at technical school. But before we get into that, what is your background with welding?
So my background with welding, I decided to go back to school to find something that I could make a career out of. And I had heard that the state of Georgia was offering free tuition for certain in-demand fields. As I looked over that list, welding was one of them. And I thought, I can definitely do that. Like, immediately pictured myself, torch in hand, hood on, just melting metal. And I decided to go, I looked into a local technical college near me, which happened to be Lanier Technical College in Barrow County. We toured the facility, talked to the instructors, and literally enrolled that same day for the following semester. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it because it's a fascinating industry, and something that it's artistic too. Not only is it a great career, but very. So, you know, I'm in the industry and I can see it. Why do you think there's such a push for a skilled trade such as welding?
So I think there's such a push for it because there's such a demand for it. The American Welding Society did an Outlook report that said that there's going to be a need for 250,000 to 310,000 welders over the next decade. I mean, just think about that for a second.
That seems almost impossible numbers. And talk about, do you want a career? Come into welding. It's good. The doors are open. Now, what kind of, with that kind of opening, can you talk about some of the careers associated with those jobs? What are they?
Definitely. So welding, it's multifaceted. There's so many different processes and ways that you can use welding. You could be a pipe fitter, you could be structural welding, you could be a fabricator, like as you mentioned, you could be an artist. There's just so much room for growth within the field. They're on the screen now. These are just certain occupations that you could look into, but there's so many more. It is unbelievably wide open for opportunity.
It really is so broad. And what I appreciate about it is, I do meet a lot of students maybe who come in from an agricultural background. So maybe they're on a farm and so have a little bit of welding, but then being able to take that and see that pipe fitting, this is really cool stuff. And you can do sculpture, but I've seen beads on some of these pipes that are flawless. And Rachel, they just look so pretty. It's it's tough. So I do like, we are pulling up the webpage now for the American Welding Society, correct?
So this is the webpage for the careers in welding. This is the careers in welding. They have a trailer that travels around the country, going to different schools to introduce kids to what welding is, the opportunities out there. And as you can see, there's different information for where to get trained. how to secure a scholarship, and how to find a job. Because those are the three main things. Like, where do we go to get the information? How are we going to pay for that information? And then where are we going to go work once we have those certifications, that sort of thing.
I love this. Now, would you mind saying out loud what the website address is?
Yes, it is www.careersandwelding.com. You can also go to the www.aws.org, and they have even more resources and information about scholarships and different things through the AWS Foundation that'll actually help people who need a little bit of extra help to pay for school. They can help facilitate that.
It's fantastic. And I love how you're connecting the dots, because, especially for graduates, there has been the push on you go to college. And what I don't think parents realize is welding is very difficult. I mean, it is, there's math and science involved. It's not just, we're melting metal, which is pretty amazing, but it
is.
But I love how you're helping connect the dots and show that there's scholarships. There's a ton of money on the table.
Oh yeah, in the form of scholarships, grants, there's money out there. Like when I went back to school, I didn't pay for any of my tuition, and it added up pretty quick. So I left school with no student debt. And to me, that is incredible.
That is, I kid you not, Georgia does it so fantastic. The things and resources they provide for people in education, I'm jealous. If I could handle the humidity, which double bonus to both you and our other guests today for being able to weld in the humidity, because that is a gift and a half.
You have to stay hydrated.
Absolutely. So, we know that there's some cool things, but why is welding such a good skill in the trade industry for those entering into the industry?
So I think that it's such a great skill because, so I've explained it as being a 5-lane highway. Most people, if they go the traditional college route, it's like a 2-lane highway. And there's all these cars are funneling into this 2-lane highway. Welding is literally a 5-lane super highway. You can go wherever you want to go with welding. You can travel the country, you could travel the world with welding.
Yeah, so Mars and the International Space Station, who knows?
Exactly. Go work for SpaceX and do some really cool things with Elon Musk,
Yes. Oh, the concrete pad that they have to put down for those rockets is outrageous. Like,
obscene.
Yeah, right. Oh, talk about all the fun stuff in this industry. And I like the explanation on the 5-lane highway because, maybe you want to be your own business owner. Maybe you want to be a foreman of a crew. Maybe you want to work in gasoline, which seems very dangerous. So let's see. Can students learn, how can students learn? Let's pull up the website again. Because I want to, how can they learn if it's a good career fit? What are the skills you need to be great at welding? And the one example I usually give is when I see young ladies who do the eyeliner and it looks really great. I'm like, you just took something sharp and drew a straight line up against your eyeball. Why aren't you a welder? Come
exactly.
on. But what are some ways for people to know if they're a good fit?
So I think some of the ways you can know if you'd be a good fit for being a welder, your attention to detail, for one, your ability to stand the heat, because not just in the summer, but it puts off some serious heat depending on which process you're using. And basically your commitment level to wanting to make a career for yourself. Because as long as you're committed and you put both feet in, you're going to get something out of it.
Oh, 100%, especially with it's this weird kind of blend. It's very sad to see how many jobs we need and how many people are retiring, but the opportunities this opens up is off the charts. So what are some uncommon applications for welding?
Uncommon applications would be like nuclear welding, underwater welding, which is very cool. It's something I've never done it, but it is on my bucket list because now that I know how to weld, I'm ready to. I've never been diving before, but it's definitely on my bucket list. There's also, as we mentioned earlier, like the aerospace, working for NASA or SpaceX. Those would be really cool to do.
It would be incredibly cool. I can't imagine, I don't like heights, but welding in space, I don't know. We'll see about that. So, I know kind of thought you could envision yourself being a welder, but was there anything else that sparked your interest with welding?
Yes, actually, what kind of sparked my interest was I had seen the show Mythbusters with Jessie Combs, and so I knew a little bit about her. When I went to go meet the instructors at Linear Tech, they actually told me you need to find women in the trade and immerse yourself in it. So I did, and Jessie Combs, was the woman of the trade. So I immediately just fell in love with who she was as a person, and I thought I want to be just like Jessie.
That is amazing and awesome. She was truly an amazing role model and leader in the industry. I mean, changing the perception on this is what a welder looks like. Ta-da. Yeah.
Exactly.
We don't always have beards. So what are some new trends that you're seeing in the industry?
For one thing, I'm seeing more women in the trade, but I'm also seeing more young people in the trade. I think they're realizing that the baby boomers are retiring and there's an option to make some serious money. I've seen a lot more young people getting into this trade.
Which is wonderful because, the safety too, we're preparing on how to take care of our bodies for longer, but getting into this industry earlier is a gift and a half.
Yes.
So, we did bring up the Careers in Welding website, but let's go a little bit broader. And what would you recommend for a recent high school graduate who is interested in entering into the construction industry? What is the first steps that they should take?
So the first steps they should take is look into their local technical colleges, trade schools, things like that, but also go to the aws.org. It's on the screen right here. They have a plethora of resources, information, publications. It has every bit of information you could possibly ever need is on this website.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you forever. Obviously, like that lunch is already flying by, and I want to talk to Tom as well. But real quick, you've been in the industry for a little while, or a bit. Mm-hmm. How long have you been in welding now?
I went back to school in 2018, and I graduated because of COVID. They just did the commencement, so I just officially graduated.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
I see myself being a program director at a welding school and having the ability to create whatever I want to create in my spare time, whether it be sculptures or if I want to, make go-karts, whatever, I will do it.
Oh my gosh, I'm moving to Georgia so we can hang out because that would be so much fun, right? I will do the wooden interiors to your go-karts. Done. That we started a business.
I think you're on to something.
Yeah. Rachel, would you mind hanging out while I chat with Tom? Because I'd like to bring you both on at the end. This has been absolutely fantastic and very, very informative.
Yes, I'll hang on.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And we'll go ahead and bring in Tom Reiger, who is the Vice Chair of the American Welding Society, the Atlanta section, and the instructor at Lerner Technical College. And I'm very, very excited to be chatting with Tom today, who is joining us in a moment. Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. I love your background. That's fantastically authentic.
Good.
Bravo. So you're an instructor at Lerner Technical College. Are you seeing an increase with students being interested in welding?
We have. Yes, we have. And especially the younger ones. We have a what's called a dual enrollment program at our college. So the high school students can take welding at the same time they're taking high school classes. So it gives them a jump on a trade. It gives them a jump on college.
Yes.
Gives them an idea if this is something they'd like to do. So it's kind of 2 for 1. They get college credit and high school credit as well.
That's brilliant. And also learning the muscle memory and the technique early on, again, that practice, those practice hours are critical.
Definitely. Our lab time is 90% of what we do here, hands-on, learning how to read the puddle, listening to it. I mean, using all your senses to become proficient at welding.
I have to be a welder. I'm going to be your student someday, just by the way. Now it's on video.
Come on in.
Good. You know, you have many students. What's one of the most interesting projects that you've seen a former student work on in their career?
Wow. Well, I've been teaching since 2000, so I've had a lot of students go through my doors. You know, I've got them that have gone into the pipe welding industry. I've got them that have opened up their own companies, doing stainless steel pipe welding, equipment repair, gone into other companies and branched out into welding inspection. I mean, there's just so many different avenues they can go down. I have had one student that has gone into, well, actually a couple students have gone into welding instruction.
Most excellent. It's good to pass it on too, because with the need, we need also instructors to pass on this gift and knowledge.
Definitely.
Knowing that there's so many job openings, and most of the time when you graduate from school or you start off as a laborer, you know, but how many hours do you need to be proficient enough to work at an entry-level job in this profession?
Well, you know, with our diploma program, we run them through all different processes of welding. So they're doing stick welding, TIG welding, MIG welding, learn how to read blueprints, oxy-fuel welding and cutting. So by the time they finish with our program, and it can vary depending on their schedule, they should be proficient enough to at least, at the very minimum, get an entry-level position. So hours-wise, a lot. It takes a lot of hands-on time to do it. But we get them to the point where they can get into a company, and then that's when they're really going to learn the trade. They'll learn how that company does things, because everybody does things differently.
Yep.
And that's where they really build their skill level. We get them to that point, and then they take it from there.
It's wonderful because, you know, you need to be a little bit proficient and know the safety measures, you know, the basics, and then really honing those skills with the company. That's very, very true, because it takes years. You know, it definitely takes years. You know, if they go through the diploma, they get a little taste of everything in here, and then they kind of get a feel for what they really want to do, and they'll shoot for that type of welding position. And then once they get that position, they will just expand on their knowledge and their skills. Oh, and you can learn forever, and especially technology is changing. I mean, who knows what the industry will look like in 20 years from now? It could be.
Oh yeah, it's changing all the time. Everything's changing all the time.
Yeah.
Different processes are getting added and improving processes all the time.
I'm gonna make go-go gadget hands, and one of my fingers will be a welder. That's what I'm going for.
There you go. There you go. You create that, and you've got something going on there.
I'll talk to you. You could be my instructor on how to figure out how it works.
All right, good. Sounds good. Yeah.
I love it. You know, I think this is such a wonderful industry, and really, if folks have a base of welding, they can go anywhere. If, you know, it turns out welding isn't your jam, maybe automotive could be, or carpentry. I mean, you just see so many different things. What is AWS doing to promote welding to people who are interested in the trade?
Well, what we do with our section and all the sections in American Welding Society is we'll hold meetings and we hold those meetings at various companies that employ welders and are looking for welders. So we'll call a meeting. It's open to everyone. You don't have to be an American Welding Society member. We encourage young folks to come to these meetings so they can see what's done at this specific company and get to meet some of the other people in the American Welding Society, make some really good connections. So our section and all the sections are about promoting welding, especially to the younger generation, get them interested in it. And hopefully we're doing good. And I think we are.
Yes. Oh, good.
We have some really good companies in our area and throughout Georgia and all the other states that are willing to bring us in and hold meetings there. And I think it really piques the interest of some of the students to really actually see what's going on hands-on.
Well, and I like the fact that these meetings are open to people, because part of it is networking, but then part of it also is demystifying the magic trick. I think sometimes people think, you know, working at a welding company, everybody must be very, very grumpy and dirty and no fun. Yeah. That's not the case.
Yeah, it can be.
Sure, yes.
It can be, but you know, it's not like people have in their heads a lot of the time. There's so many different aspects of welding. You know, you can get into places that aren't the best, but you can get into companies they're really clean, really safety conscious. I mean, there's a wide range of companies out there, and they do a wide range of different kinds of things. I mean, there's so many avenues to welding. It's crazy.
Yeah, knowing how to weld is like knowing how to ride a bike. It'll take you forever, and it's just a basic skill I think everybody should have.
Yeah, like I tell my students, you get in here and you decide this is not what you want to do. That's fine. At least you know what you don't want to do, and you will have a little bit of skill that you could do some things at your house. You know, welding projects, everybody's breaking something all the time, and everybody wants something welded up all the time.
Oh, constantly. I cracked the frame to my Jeep driving aggressively off-roading. But if I can fix it, it's a nice skill to have, I'll tell you what, because the mechanic might have thought I lost my mind. I also, before we bring Scott and Rachel back in, I also want to mention that the American Welding Society has a traveling exhibit that's coming to Georgia. And the Careers and Welding Event Tour will be at Sunbelt AG Expo in Montreal.
Moultrie, Georgia.
Moultrie, okay. in October, which is very exciting. Can you tell me again the website for AWS that people can get more information?
AWS.org.
Fantastic. And I hope a lot of people check out this information because it is very broad. And then I hope a lot of folks actually come to your school and apply to be one of your students, because it sounds like there's a lot of great information to be learned there.
Definitely. Yeah, get onto AmericanWeldingSociety.org and you can look up all the different sections. You can find our section, and you can find out when our next meeting is, and definitely come see us and join the meeting and see what's taking place at this company we go to.
I love it. Tom, thank you so much for sharing this information. And welcome back, Rachel and Scott. This was so much fun. Scott, what are your thoughts? Like, let's go welding now.
No, I've always admired welding. You know, it's a big part of our career expo that we do in February of 2022. We're coming back to the World Congress Center, and we always have welding simulators there to allow students to see what it's like to weld. So I've always admired welding as a career. And I'm curious, Rachel, what did you do before you decided on welding? I may have missed that, but I'm curious to know how you went from what you were doing to what you're doing now.
So I'm a bit of a Jane of all trades. I was making jewelry. I'm a self-taught bench jeweler. So I work with sterling silver. I've made necklaces, pendants, earrings, bracelets, you name it, I've done it. But my daytime job, I worked for an electrical contractor, and I had been out on job sites. So I had seen the welders, I'd seen it in action, but I was basically a gopher for an electrical contractor. Whatever they needed, that's what I did.
That's awesome. Thank you. And Tom, you mentioned you've been in the industry a long time. Have you been a teacher the whole time, or did you work as a welder before you became a teacher?
No, I definitely worked as a welder before I became a teacher. Actually got my start welding in the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps, and luckily they picked that trade for me to learn. So I got trained through the United States Marine Corps. And then after I got out of the Corps, I realized, the Corps only teaches you what they need you to know, and it's pretty much mobile type welding. So I realized that when I got out of the Corps and got into the civilian world to be successful, I was going to have to learn more about welding. So I went to a trade school, and I went through the program at that trade school, and then I worked in the industry throughout Georgia, various companies doing heavy equipment primarily, a lot of fabrication. And then luckily, I was asked to apply for a welding instructor job from my old welding instructor that I went to, that trained me at the technical college I went to when I got out of the Corps.
That is so cool. I mean, to me, welding is just so vast. Like all of you have talked about, it's such a great trade to learn because there are so many different ways that you can make a living in welding, so many different industries. Shipbuilding obviously is really big down here in the Southeast, and I know a lot of welders go into that. So obviously construction is a big deal. We're a little partial to the building industry ourselves here at SEPCA, but just really appreciate you taking time to join us today, Tom and Rachel, and look forward to meeting you in person in the near future. Hopefully you can make it out to our Career Expo in February.
I'm sure we will. And thanks for asking me to join.
Yes, this was fantastic, very, very informative. I hope we crashed the internet with folks going to not only the AWS website, but also SEPCA's website to check out more information with their programs as well. And so we want to thank everybody for hanging out with lunch with us this week. And next week, join us because we're going to be talking to a recent graduate from Construction Ready and also an employer that works with the program. So I'm very, very excited to highlight more people getting employed in great things. So Tom, Scott, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us for lunch today. And I hope you have a brilliant rest of your week.
Thank you very much. You too.
You.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.